But to kick things off, I'd like to invite Bhav Makwana to the stage. He hails from the Telegraph, which I'm sure is a resource you've all read many, many times. I think it's 27 million readers at this point, right? So it's a great publication, Ground Information's Ops. So Bhav's going to share a little bit about their journey, kind of going down the DevOps path. He's responsible for service operations within the team, and he's got a great story to share about their tools and sharing across their various frameworks and how all that comes together. So with that, thank you all for your attention. I'd like to invite Bhav to the stage.
So, hi, good morning, everyone. Hope everyone's energy levels are high after that speech. Thanks a lot, Abbas. So, there's a couple of themes that Abbas spoke about which actually are very relevant to the world that I work in and some of the things that we've done recently. So, we've spoken a bit about DevOps there and that kind of methodology. It's not a thing, it's not a role, it's a methodology, right, like ITIL is. And tool chaining, you briefly said about tool chaining and kind of the goal that I want to reach to, hopefully by the end of the year, and the steps that we're making towards there. But we've got a story, and I wanted to kind of talk people through this journey. So let me use a clicker, and I'll start doing that. There you go. Thank you, Thanks. Going on to me. So my speak today is about delivering the future of support today, and how we've done some of that, and how we had a shift in some of our business and our support processes, and how we've done that. And again, I'll speak about that, and also about tool chaining, which is going to be the future, I think. So to start off, a little bit about me, as we currently do on this. So a couple of points about me. I'm currently trying to restore a 71 Beetle, which is a pain in the arse, but it's really good as well. One of the things that I actually found liberating is trying to use an architecture diagram to help me with rewiring my car, and it really worked, but it's really worth doing, and it's an absolute great stress reliever. Outside of the Telegraph and outside of my day job, I run a food business as well. And this is a kind of theme that comes along. It's my wife's food business, and it wasn't going that well. And I said, hey, let me project manage it, and I would use a methodology to help run and kickstart this food business. And we actually use a Kanban board, and it really helped us kind of focus and do an MVP on what we wanted to do for this food business. And then we started up this food business, which is kind of going quite well now. So we've got a start-up food business. And as that kind of transcends, I have a couple of life mottos. One of them is, what is one thing I can do today to make my life better tomorrow? And that comes from my favorite book, which is The One Thing. And I have this real heavy influence on trying to merge what I learn at work into my personal life, and what I learn in my personal life into my work life as well, to kind of bridge that gap. And that doesn't mean I work 24 hours a day and I'm connected 24 hours a day, but it means that I can help things in different areas. So some of the things I learn at work, so architecture diagrams, service transition, and those sort of things, and a Kanban board has helped me with my car and my food business. And likewise, some of the stuff I learn at home, the one thing, and how to focus my mind and my energy, do things like an MVP, minimalist as well. There's an awesome Netflix program on minimalism. Doing that at home has also helped me try and infiltrate at work, and try and do that at work as well. So it's a little thing about me. So yeah. So I'll move on to my presentation. And before I start, I wanted to talk a bit about the Telegraph, and hopefully everyone knows the Telegraph. Everyone knows it initially as a media brand, as a news media brand. We're only up the road. We're only up in Victoria, so it's only not that far away from here. So let me start by talking a bit about the Telegraph brand, and overview our product range, and give you an idea of what our business needs are, and how that kind of impacts the decisions that we make when we start looking at service operations and some of the other areas that we've looked at. So initially, as the Telegraph understands it, we are a newspaper, right? That was our first foothold. We launched a newspaper in 1855. That was our first printed edition. I was just looking at June the 29th as well. I'm sure it's the 29th of June today as well. How weird is that? So we printed our first newspaper in 1855. And going beyond that, innovation has been steeped into our history. We launched our first a website, we were the first newspaper to launch a news media website in Europe in 1994. I think the stat is something like 4 years before Google and 10 years before Facebook. And when you think about that, that's huge, right? Google is massive. So is Facebook, that is massive. And we were kind of there, and we're at the beginning parts of Beyond that, we've launched mobile applications, tablet editions, and we've continued to innovate through history, and we've continued to grow with time. This cuts off, and I don't think you can see it, at 2016 last year. Only in the last month or so, around the election times, we've launched a Snapchat channel. So we've continued to grow, and we've launched a Snapchat channel, and that's really successful. And actually, it's really good media coverage. It's really good for news organisations. So definitely go check it out. One of the things that isn't presented here is kind of our e-commerce side, where we look at subscription models and our open premium model as well. We've kind of continued to iterate and continue to build on that and change with the way that the market works in that sort of in that style. So going beyond, most people know, again, the Telegraph as print, mobile, and web. That is our core product. Beyond that, and what people might not know, is we run a good Telegraph events sector. People may have heard of the Ski and Snowboard Show, BFit London, cruise shows. They're really successful events, and they're working really well. And hey, I'd recommend going to BFit London and Ski and Snowboard. They're really good. Likewise, we have a creative advertising business as well, in-house, and we work with a lot of other partners, other vendors, and we build a lot of advertising for them. And that's very successful as well. And it's not necessarily Telegraph branded, it's working with other partners and building that out. And hopefully this kind of demonstrates that we're not just a newspaper, we're not just a website or a mobile app, which is like a website. We've got other areas of business which are thriving, but also hungry and have a great need on service operations and technology alike. So going beyond that, a little bit more of our fact sheet. We are the #1 quality daily UK news brand, reaching over 27 million customers every month, I should say. We have over 1 million daily readers of our newspaper, over 8 million monthly unique visits to our website, and over 15 million monthly uniques to our mobile product as well. And obviously that's growing in time as well, in kind of all of the areas here. So yeah. So moving on to the presentation and what I want to speak about. Back in 2014, when kind of DevOps was an idea and some of these things were coming to market in terms of these kind of service operation themes, we had a challenge internally where we reviewed our service and we looked at the service we're providing to our customers. Customers being our internal customers, people that write the newspaper, the people that build the creative advertising, our video team, and those sort of things. And we were looking at what wasn't quite working with the service we were providing. We were providing a good general service, but there were areas in that service which weren't quite working, and how we could improve on that, on those themes. At the time, we had an outsourced provider providing our service desk desktop, our database, our server, kind of our operations teams there. And we used an outsourced ITSM system. So we used the system that they provided to us. And we saw kind of areas of improvement in both of those. So what did we do and what did we look at? So the first one, we found the solution. And again, where I talk about the solution is, the kind of IT solution that we're providing to our business. We found that the IT solution that we had, the teams that we had in place, we found with very much like this outsourced model, they were very KPI driven, which can work well, but we found that the focus was more on the quantity rather than the quality of the service that was being provided. Hey, the guys were really happy that they could resolve 500 password resets in a week, but wouldn't look at why we were resetting 500 passwords in a week, right? Why do we do that? Why do we spend the time doing that? Likewise, why can't we provide a tool to the customers to actually reset their own passwords? That's a very simple analogy, but there were a lot of focuses and a lot of themes like that where quantity was a measure over the quality of the service that we're providing overall. Likewise, we found that the external partner or the external solution there wasn't able to relate well to our internal customer. So, and that's not necessarily a language barrier problem, but more of a case of understanding what the business needs were and what the business needed when they had an IT problem, right? Hey, I can't print today, and they were dealing it in a normal fashion, but actually understanding what the impact of that was and how that affected people. And lastly, there was a legacy approach to IT support. So again, that same sort of theme of trying to merge two teams together and how we provided that support overall. So next, we looked at the ITSM tool system, the system that we had in place, the service desk system that we had in place, used for problem, change management, incident management, and service desk in general. And we found some limitations with it. It was very poor at reporting. It would take a long time to try and pull a report out, try and build a report together. Once you'd finally done that, you'd find that that data was different to someone else who tried to pull the same sort of data for you as well. We found the system was very over-engineered and underpowered. It was struggling with just the amount of users that we had, which wasn't the greatest. And a absolute pain in the arse was no centralized knowledge base, right? So people went to various sources, Google Docs, Google Sheets, and TechWiki sites built for knowledge bases rather than having a central system, even if the data was farmed out elsewhere, but just a central place to go for this information. Next, we found that the solution wasn't built to design, or wasn't designed to empower the business, or certainly just technology, right? Technology uses ITSM system. We found that we were struggling with the system. It was harder to do day-to-day things. Just raising a change record, tracking problem records was really difficult. It was very clunky. Just things like assigning tickets to people was a real pain. So it wasn't the greatest there. And whilst we were on this journey, we looked at other factors as well. And one of those was how we provide incident communications. So whilst we were looking at different systems and solutions that could help us in our model, we're also looking at incident communications. How do we issue out communications to a mass market? How do we issue out internal communications when we have a P1, for example, right? Very simply, how do we issue that out to our customers, our internal customers? So we started reviewing that. And following, kind of a review of this, we had a new objective set. So we had a new IT operations strategy set and objectives for me and my team. So following that review of the service, the IT operations strategy that was set was transforming IT from a vendor management group to a business-focused solutions provider. So rather than kind of us almost sitting as a broker and you had a solution there and a business there and we would manage between the two, we would actually be that team that were there to focus on what solution we're providing to the business itself. And the second one, assess at every opportunity, are we providing the best service for our customers internally, right? So what we're providing as a solution, as a fix, as a resolution, as a piece of development or engineering, is it really focused on excelling the business and evolving the business forward in their creative advertising, in their editorial, in the mobile products that we needed to provide? So whilst we were looking at that, we also had a couple of objectives set as well. So to facilitate bringing that service back in-house without derailing the business and complete that implementation within 3 months. So we only had a short period of time to do that, and we really had to stretch to kind of meet that goal. One of the ways that we looked at this is by doing the MVP approach, the minimum viable product, and I really sing for that. I think it's a really good thing and a good model to work on, so I'd really recommend having a read of that afterwards as well. So my team's challenge was really the bottom two, right? The objectives here. So how do we bring some of that service back in-house without derailing business and doing it in 3 months? So again, using what I defined previously, so this kind of set of what we didn't like in the ITSM solution, what we could define as our product goals, what were the things that we wanted to build to make, to bring that service back in-house and to try and do things in 3 months. So we went out to the market and the first thing we did is we assessed what the requirements were from our ITSM system. Overall, over everything else, I should say, the main thing and my main goal was the 3 things that I said at the bottom there. So to keep it simple, better and beautiful. I don't know if you've ever used, and we're Jira users, right? I don't know if you've ever seen the initial first cut of Jira, so Jira V1. It was very clunky, it was really bad, right? Everything was everywhere, right? And if you look at Jira now, it's very simple, it's very clean. Same as like Google and things like that, right? Everyone loves a really good GUI. Everyone hates a really sticky one. So that was our really mantra. That was a mantra for us. So everything that we built, we wanted to make it really easy to use for ourselves, right? We need to be easy to use for our customers. But foremost, we are the customer, right? We are the team that needs to use this day in, day out. So it needs to be helpful for us to use so we can push that out to the rest of the technology and allow them to use it. So some of the other things that we looked at was designing those ITSM modules, so incident problem change, workflows that really empowered us as technology, but then also the business. If the business requested something, we had a request process or workflow through there. Allowing our customers to log tickets in multiple ways. Previously we only had email and phone. Now we're moving more to a model where we're going towards self-service, right? So a customer portal, that's pretty standard nowadays, but 2 or 3 years ago, it wasn't so much the case. Centralized knowledge base, as I've depicted here, one place where that knowledge can sit and can lie, and we can almost, if we farm out to almost other knowledge bases, it's all centralized in a model. Including good reporting tool, a good reporting engine, good service dashboards in there as well. One version of the truth rather than finding multiple different ones. We wanted a product that we could continually update, which is my lovely logo here, which is effectively a system that is easy to upgrade, is easy to maintain. You can install plugins and keep things alive in that sense. And what I mentioned previously about incident communications, we wanted to make incident communications a lot more easier, a lot more accessible, a lot more people could do incident communications, but also we could reach the right people in the right way. We'd gone beyond the model of just picking up the phone and calling people. That is still effective and we still do that, but we wanted a more autonomous way of doing that, using some of the other products out on the market. So we'd now defined our product goals and what we were looking for. Each of these product goals we kind of done the MVP on, so what was the minimum we could kind of get away with to get us started. So on a knowledge base, just start with one knowledge base and expand out from that. Service reporting, this is maybe a bad idea, but when you go to a vendor and you do a service report with them, they give you pages of stuff and you don't look at any of it, you just look at normally 2 things. So we really wanted to review service reporting, what is the actual information we want from the system rather than trying to get everything. So we did an MVP there. So moving on from there, so we'd reached now a milestone where we knew what we wanted from our new products, and we kind of had these product goals and this MVP idea that we wanted to build on. So what did we do from there? So firstly, we went out to the market. We went to roadshows like SITS, like SDI, and like SITS in London is an amazing roadshow to go to. And we started looking at the vendors and the different products that are out there. One of the vendors that we looked at was Atlassian and the Jira stack. We had a simple Jira in-house, like with a lot of people. The developers used it, right? The release guys used it. But we wanted to see how we could transform that for IT operations for service desk. Likewise, we actually met up with Laura, who presented earlier. We met her at the same show and we started talking about the whole incident communications piece. Gone were the days where we pick up the phone and SMS to each other. We wanted an autonomous solution there. So we reached out to these different companies and we started doing some consolidation. We brought on site people like Atlassian and Valiantis to identify what we could get out of Jira. And the same thing with xMatters actually, for our instant communications, like what could we build in the shortest period of time and how we could build that. And we quickly identified from a service desk standpoint, it was that Atlassian was the way we wanted to go. We wanted Jira Service Desk. We wanted that Jira suite with Jira Service Desk, with the customer portal, with the agent view, with Confluence, which helps us build a knowledge base as well. And it helped us achieve some of those sort of product goals that we wanted. xMatters for us was the best solution in terms of instant communications as well, and where we wanted to continue to build instant communication from a forefront, but how we continue on from that. And I kind of cover that a little bit later on. So we consulted with both of these teams and we helped kind of better define these goals. We reassessed our goals through the way because some things weren't achievable and we were happy with that. And then we created these synergies between the teams and between ourselves on how we can work to deploy that. So the next step was how we did deploy. So how did we do it? So I mentioned earlier about a Kanban board that I used in my daily life to build this food business, right? It actually started from running on this sort of project. So we had a Kanban board and all the ideas that we wanted to implement using our MVP. Again, you can always kind of strip back a story to the most smallest task and sometimes even drop that task into a subtask. So we built that up into a Kanban board, did daily stand-ups on our progress, and we still actually do daily stand-ups in a different light in terms of just general service operations. So me and my teams get together daily, and we actually talk about what are you doing today and what is the one thing you're going to achieve today. Going back to my previous slide, because it helps kind of your energy and focus, your thought pattern there. Effective communication, so at our daily stand-ups, kind of celebrating the success from what you've achieved, but then also celebrating that failure as well. As Abbas said, there was a time, 2 or 3 years ago where people started recognizing that it's not a bad thing to fail. Previously, and the previous companies I worked at, if you failed, it was a really bad thing. It was not celebrated at all. But here, you like I've said, you try, you test something, it fails, but you succeed because you understand why it's gone wrong and you understand that root cause and you try and progress on from there. As always, keeping it simple, less is more, remembering that as a mantra, which helps with our MVP. And then also kind of working on this agile loop, right? So this is something that was going on in the Telegraph at the same time, more on the engineering side, but we were kind of being influenced by that. Certainly like a Kanban board and working with daily stand-ups was an influence, but then going beyond that, how to work more agile, how to kind of adapt to different challenges that come up as we're building these solutions that we were. So what did we implement from there? We implemented an awesome ticketing system, right? We implemented Jira Service Desk, and we're really happy with how the ticketing system worked. It's very simple. It's not as flashy as some of the other systems out there, but it just worked for us and we were happy with that. We implemented a new change management system using Jira, but new workflows in there. We implemented, standard releases and non-standard releases, and then we're trying to lean towards more autonomous autonomous releases, sort of continual updates, continual releases, which we couldn't do with our previous product range. We implemented better problem management suite from, again, using Jira and Jira Service Desk, a knowledge base, as I mentioned before, so using Confluence as our home for different knowledges. At the time, we only built one, which was an internal repository for service operations procedures, so kind of SOPs. Then we built a separate one for customers, so our internal customers to read off our self-service portal. And then going beyond that, for every service transition we do, so every service onboarding we do, we build another site out where we can host that information. And lastly, sort of incident communication. So we evolved the way that we do with incident communications. Our templates are a lot better. It's a lot more faster now for my incident managers to issue out a comms, right? 2 taps of the app allows you to send out comms to a mass market of people, which really helps us. Going beyond that, we kind of carried on this mantra and evolving, and we went on to looking at what else we could do with those products we'd now implemented. We'd done our MVP, right? We'd implemented that, and we wanted to now push along. So a couple of things that we implemented, ticketing templates for our service desk, and actually it's now being used in our delivery cycles as well. There's a standard way of logging if this then that type ticket, and even on the service desk as well, I should mention. An incident management tab which is used in our service desk, which is really powerful. So every time we have a major incident, a P1 or P2, we update that information with the service impact, service category, potential root causes into that information. The most awesome thing about that is that information goes straight into a dashboard. So for our management, the information is already available, and we build that out and we link out to a problem record. So we've got these synergies between these two kind of areas now, and also feeding up that change to our management teams as well. A service catalog, we built a service catalog using Confluence and using Jira, and that information sits together very nicely. And again, every service transition onboarding that we do, we build out the service catalog again. And we did a very basic version of asset management. Our asset management was in spreadsheets, which is really bad. It's really crap. I really recommend getting off spreadsheets as fast as possible. So we built something very simply in Jira, which allows us to do an asset management kind of workflow. And it's not it's not the full product yet. It's still our MVP, and we're still building that. And later this year, we're going to look at other products that can help us get more mature with asset management. And there are products out there that can help us. Some of the other areas that we continue to grow in, and we're still doing that now, are things like our incident communications. We use incident communications in technology. Our facilities management, our services team use a different product, which we weren't that biggest fans of. And we kind of influence them to help them bring them into the same model. So using xMatters for now our BCP communication. So we now use xMatters to help us issue out BCP communications. Lastly, Slack for IT operations. So we used to use HipChat. We've now moved on to Slack, and we're very happy with Slack in the way that it's working. So this kind of now leads me to my next point, and this kind of was reflected in Abbas's slides earlier on, is where we're looking to go next from this. So what is the next evolution from us? Because we've kind of achieved this stuff, and where do we want to go next? So in service operations, this is kind of my goal and kind of my pitch and where I want to kind of get to by the end of the year. And it's all about tool chaining, which was kind of spoken about earlier. So I have this kind of desire and this need, and I think generally it's not spoken enough in our industry, of tool chaining different systems for the benefit of technology and for the benefit of ITSM. We all have developers and engineers in-house that build these products for our business, but we're not seen as a business unit, and so we don't do it for ourselves to benefit from it. So I kind of want to build this thing, and it looks kind of messy here, but I'll talk you through it. So we have Nagios and Zabbix, and we have other monitoring systems like Sensu. And right now, they flash up on a dashboard. And what we're building is to have those alert into xMatters or into Slack channel very quickly. What we can do off the back of this is, and the desire is, hey, the alert goes into xMatters, it notifies my service managers, they say, hey, yes, let's go and investigate this, and drive it into a Slack channel for communications. From the back of that, they can also raise a Jira Service Desk ticket. And we can do the whole Jira Service Desk workflow using Slack, right? So whilst we're talking in a war room how to run an incident, we can update the Jira Service Desk ticket the whole way through its lifecycle. What I'd also like to do is to branch out to, I've mentioned Jira down here, but this is going to be where I want to go with our asset management. So I can pull that information now into Jira Service Desk and potentially link back into Slack to look at the total asset or the total service, is the way that I would call it. So we can kind of tool chain those systems together. And then lastly, hey, we can go and review SOPs that are in our Confluence space, or write new SOPs, potentially as slash commands out of Slack to say, hey, go write this in Confluence as a new SOP, which is going to be available to, either to our internal staff, our technology staff, or our internal customers itself. So I really have this desire to do this, and I think we can achieve some of it. Last week, Friday, I held a Slack Guild session, and we built that integration, right? We did that in like 5 minutes. That was not difficult. The hardest thing about doing that is getting a business case to get the money to do it, right? But doing it is quite easy. The next step for us is either trying to do that or trying to do that. We can do that kind of simply, but that may be a bit more difficult, and that's something we're working on at the moment. There is this beast in the corner that I haven't spoken about, Trello. So we are Trello users, and we use it for various guises. It's a very simple sort of Kanban board for people to use. And there's another use case, which isn't quite ITSM, but another case that I want to use Trello for, but it's for a whole new starters process, right? So when I have a new starter join my team in service operations, I give them a Trello board, and I say, these are the first 10 things that you need to do in your career at Telegraph. Number one, go and find out where the fire exit is and the muster point. That is the most important thing for everyone to know, right? So number one can be that, and you kind of assign them a board and say, this is what you should go and do first. Off the back, some of that raises tickets, or some of them points them to Confluence articles. So we can kind of build that again in a different way. That was an incident example, but this could be a new starters workflow kind of flown that way as well. So we can work on how to do that. So this is my idea, and I hope everyone can kind of take this away and go, yeah, this is awesome, we can do that in our business. And hopefully I can steal some ideas off you, because I don't have the answer. So yeah. So that leads me on to final slide, right? So lessons learned. What have we learned through this journey for the last couple of years whilst we've been building and evolving in service operations? So firstly, we did a lot in 3 months to achieve our goal and to implement a new service desk, and we did that, right? We had some awesome partnerships with Atlassian, Valiantis, xMatters, who've helped us along this journey and helped us build a tool that was right for us and our business and has transformed how IT operations works and IT works in general with some of the other tool chaining methods that we mentioned there, the other products there. To conclude from this, the things that I would recommend, choose the right tool for what you want to deliver, not for what a tool can deliver. It's very easy to go to a roadshow like SITS and be sold by every other product out there. Some of the products aren't the greatest, and the product they'll show you costs a hell of a lot more than what they actually can deliver to you. So just have a look at what your goals are. Define your product goals really early, and then define on there. As I said, Jira Service Desk, Confluence, they've been key to changing Telegraph's landscape in the way that we work in service operations, but then also in IT in general. xMatters, we're also building that out, and that's farming out wider across the whole of technology, right, and the whole of the Telegraph as well. We're now using this as BCP, and it's going to help us in a massive way in that framework as well. Recommendations from me: hey, try the MVP approach. Try it on your next project. Go and have a quick read on what it is and how to do that, and give it a shot. It's very easy to get sucked into a project and try and deliver everything that's capable, and that's a very waterfall method of doing things, but you find that it takes a long time to deliver the product overall. If you try an MVP approach, you're kind of constantly delivering until you get to a release, and it really does help. And once you've done your MVP, don't just stop there, continue building, because it is just the minimal viable product. You still need to build that out to be the total viable product, shall we say. A couple of other things, and before I get onto that one, is keep it simple, less is more. It's a continual mantra that we have. And going back to that quote from the One Thing book, right? So can we make it better today than it was yesterday? That really helps us define, is there just a simple change we can make really quickly that will make our lives easier? And I still have this dream of kind of sitting on a hammock and letting everyone else do the work. So one day I'll get there. Last thing for me, and it's just a question for you guys really, is what's the next thing for your ITSM landscape, right? Because it's very easy to go and build a service desk and then it just sits there for 3 years, and then after the 3-year point you go, hang on, this isn't right for us anymore. Why can't you kind of continually update that and continually release upon that and think about what those challenges could be and start trying to work with partners to build that? So that's it from me. So thanks for listening to me and my story, and hopefully you've taken some things away from there. I think.